The Tigers desperately needed a win, and they got it Saturday night over Vanderbilt. We'll recap the game and talk about what's ahead for this LSU team. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. And as always, one of the best ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you for that. LSU beats Vanderbilt 24-17. The 3-game losing streak is over. So what do we learn about this team and what is there moving forward? We'll delve into all that. We'll go through the game itself. I think maybe my biggest takeaway is coming into Saturday after the loss to Florida, where all of your stated goals for the season were gone. You couldn't win the SEC. You couldn't make the college football playoff or win a national championship. You couldn't get to 10 games. All the things that were stated goals for this team from the time they assembled in spring football. All those are off the table. You're mired in a 3-game losing streak. Vibes are as low as they could have possibly been. It had been 5 weeks since LSU won a football game. From the time they beat Arkansas, you lose to A&M, you have a bye, you lose to Alabama, you lose to Florida, and then you played this game. It had been 5 weeks since you tasted a victory. It's something they desperately needed. What were you playing for? An 8-win season? A mid-tier bowl game? Well, it's the thing that no fan wants to hear because it's not the thing you and I care about. But sometimes guys have to go out there and play for pride and for themselves and for their future and to get better and all those things that are abstract that you can't put your finger on. You can't hoist a trophy. You're not going to see your team's name on a line on the playoff selection show. All those things are gone. And when that's the expectation, what are you playing for? And when you start mentioning these abstract things, that's not going to sit well. That's fine. But there have been a lot of questions about culture and buy-in and if Brian Kelly's message has taken hold. And how the team played in this game on Saturday night, I think, was going to be a reflection of that. Sometimes teams quit, and sometimes they play really hard even when their goals are gone. This is one of those instances where they played really hard and they won a game over a good Vanderbilt team. Not a great Vanderbilt team, and LSU's not a great LSU team, but a good team. And these were very evenly matched teams. And LSU played the cleaner game of the two teams and managed to win it. So now you have a little bit of a feel good. Now maybe you have some confidence going into next week against Oklahoma, although Oklahoma provided part of the chaos on Saturday, which we'll talk about here in a second. And it makes that game incredibly more challenging than you might have thought initially. But LSU went out and they overcame early adversity. Y'all, Vandy won the toss and deferred. LSU gets the ball, and you went 3-and-out. Not only did you go 3-and-out, remember, on the opening kickoff of the game, Xavier Thomas got popped. He fumbled the ball. You were very fortunate to recover. Juwan Johnson recovered it. You went 3-and-out, and on a 3rd and 3, by the way, you had a false start on DJ Chester. So now you had a 3rd and 8, and you threw a 1-yard pass to Kyron Lacey. So as the game starts, remember, vibes incredibly low, all the Bryce Underwood stuff, 3-game losing streak, lost to Florida last week, everything. You fumble the opening kickoff. You have a 3rd and 3, you false start. So now it's 3rd and 8, 1-yard reception, you punt. On the first play for Vanderbilt, boom, 63-yard touchdown. Not only did they score on a 63-yard touchdown, but there was a face mask on Gio Paez, which was enforced on the kickoff, meaning they got to kick off from midfield. They squibbed it, and if you remember how that went, Trey'Dez Green got blocked into Josh Williams and effectively made the tackle, and LSU started its next drive at the 10-yard line. I'm not sure you could have scripted a worse start for LSU than what transpired. But resilient teams overcome that, and this one did. LSU put together a touchdown drive. They converted on a 3rd and 1. They didn't face another third down on that drive. Kyron Lacey had a big 30-yard reception. Josh Williams, his first touchdown, the 20-yard run. You're tied at 7. Then you force a 3-and-out. And all of a sudden, you're feeling pretty good about yourself right now. And the Tigers put together a great drop. Mason Taylor had a 24-yard reception, and you go right down the field, and you're at the 8-yard line. And here you go. You converted a 3rd and 4. You're at their 8-yard line, ready to score on back-to-back possessions. Red zone's been a problem for LSU. Nussmeier gets sacked on first down. He gets 6 yards on second. It's 3rd and 8. You throw to Trey'Dez Green. He's short of the goal line. It's 4th and goal from the 3. Brian Kelly decides to go for it. It's an incomplete pass. Now, this is not revisionist history. If you listen to the show, follow my content, I hate that decision. Take the points. This is an LSU offense that has struggled over the last month to score points. You're at the 3-yard line in a tie ball game at home. Take the points. Get the lead. Put the pressure on them. Look at 2 games that transpired on Saturday, if you watched them, that were total contrast with how coaches approached it. Ole Miss at Florida. Ole Miss was 0 for 3 in the red zone in that game because 3 times Lane Kiffin decided to pass on short field goals, to go for it on 4th down. They got stopped on all 3 of those times. How different is that game if Ole Miss is kicking field goals there and getting the lead and keeping the lead and extending the lead? The other is Kansas. Kansas was playing Colorado, and Kansas drove the field, and they routinely settled for field goals. That's not what you want, but they continued to put the pressure on Colorado, and they continued to keep them at arm's length throughout the game. Take the points. LSU didn't. They get stopped on 4th and goal from the 3. Vanderbilt gets the ball back. They would punt. And LSU ultimately, on this drive, at the start of the second quarter, you had a 3rd and 3. Kyron Lacey had a drop, so you go 3-and-outs. And all of a sudden, you go from feeling pretty good, having these back-to-back drives, to now you're in a tie ball game. You get stopped on a 4th and goal from the 3. You go 3-and-out. There was an interesting point on Vanderbilt's next drive. So we're in the second quarter. It's a tie ball game at 7. Neither team's really done anything since that opening flurry. And we saw West Weeks play in that second quarter in that Vanderbilt drive. And that's notable because West Weeks, remember, had played in 3 games up until this point. This was his 4th game. So West Weeks has now played in 4 games. And as you well know, that's the minimum or the maximum you can play to maintain a year of eligibility. So Brian Kelly has said on the record they would like for West Weeks to come back and play another season, but if they need him, they'll use him. So he played on Saturday. That's now his 4th game. If he plays against Oklahoma, he would lose that final year of eligibility. Now, remember, you can play in the bowl game and not lose your eligibility. That rule went into place because so many guys opt out of bowl games now. If you remember the Garrett Nussmeier, you can call it the Garrett Nussmeier rule if you want. LSU was playing against Kansas State in that Texas Bowl, and Nussmeier didn't want to play because it would have cost him a year of eligibility. And so John Trey Kirkland ended up playing quarterback in that game. So all that to say, it's worth watching now next week when LSU plays Oklahoma. West Weeks will be dressed, but will he play? Hopefully he doesn't, and you're able to play him in the bowl game and still have another year of eligibility. But if they need him to play, he will. And if he does, that means his career at LSU would be over after this season. But all that said, and Vanderbilt returned the favor. 7-7 game, you missed an opportunity in the goal-to-go scenario. They had a 4th and 2 in your red zone. And before you even got to the 4th and 2, where you got the stop, the 3rd down play is the one I want to mention. Vanderbilt had a 3rd and 3, and they ran a triple option play, and Sage Ryan made an incredible stop to limit that to a 1-yard gain to force the 4th and 2. And I know Sage Ryan has been an easy target for LSU fans over the years. And my contention on Sage has always been that's misplaced because that's a guy that is a safety that has played out of position his entire career because they've asked him to do that because they've needed him to play other positions. Sage Ryan came up with a huge stop right there to force the 4th and 2, and LSU got the stop on 4th and 2. Tigers would get the ball back. They drive the length of the field. They got the ball with 4:13. This was Josh Williams' 2nd touchdown run. And you converted twice on 3rd downs on this drive. 3rd and 5, C.J. Daniels with a 9-yard reception. 3rd and 2, C.J. Daniels with a 14-yard reception. Time and again, C.J. Daniels has been the safety blanket for Garrett Nussmeier. He was again on Saturday. And you're holding your breath there at the end of the first half. And this is where we can talk about resilience for this team, because you're up 14-7. You give the ball to Vanderbilt with 51 seconds. They had a timeout, and you're thinking, are they going to get points before half? And then they get the ball to start the second half. The Tigers came up with a massive stop. Now, Vanderbilt had a 3rd and 1 with 31 seconds. They false started 3rd and 6. You got the stop. They punted. You took a knee. You went to half, up 14-7. Vanderbilt getting the ball to start the second half. And although at the start of the second half, they put together a nice drive, Vanderbilt did at the start of the second half. They got that ball and would ultimately go 12 plays, 46 yards, 6:34 off the clock. If that isn't a Les Miles drive, if you've ever seen one. 12 plays, just 46 yards, but ate up 6.5 minutes to start the third quarter. But LSU got off the field and forced the short field goal. So it was 14-10, so you maintain your lead. And this is where I thought LSU really distanced themselves. Forcing that Vanderbilt field goal, getting the touchdown to Kyron Lacey on the ensuing drive. The big play, you went for it on 4th and 5. CJ Daniels, 24 yards. Another giant moment for CJ Daniels in this game. And at this point, you're feeling good. There's 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Tigers up 21-10. You're thinking, they'll probably coast to this point. You force a 3 and out, which you're feeling really good. Tigers get the ball with 1:49 to play in the third. You're up 21-10. You're feeling great at this point. And this was another long drive. And this was really the story of the game for LSU. And I don't know how much of this is Joe Sloan or Brian Kelly's influence, but it was very clear that LSU was playing a lot of ball control. They wanted to be balanced. They were, and they played a lot of ball control in this game. And this was a 13-play, 74-yard drive that ate up 6:08 off the clock. Now, when I look at LSU's drives throughout this night, the first touchdown drive, 8 plays, 90 yards, ate up 4:30. The one where they turned over on downs, 12 plays, 70 yards, 4:30 off the clock. I mentioned the 9-play, 80-yard drive for the touchdown at the end of the first half. 10 plays, 77 yards, 4:46 off the clock. 13 plays, 74 yards, 6:08 off the clock. That's the field goal puts up 24-10. And then after Pavia led Vanderbilt to a score to bring it within 24-17, LSU gets the ball with 5:47 to play in the game, and you're thinking, man, here's a sphincter check moment. Because now all of a sudden they got a little life. It's a 1-score game. We should have taken the field goal earlier anyway. But LSU gets the ball with 5:47 to play, and Vanderbilt never touched it again. 11 plays, 66 yards, ate up all 5:47 off the clock, and you never let them touch the ball again. It was not a perfect game for LSU, but there was so much to like. And I want to highlight some of those superlatives as we continue. Stay with us here. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. If you were in that number for LSU Vanderbilt, or you want to be in that number for LSU Oklahoma, make sure you check out Game Time. There's so many ways to save money on tickets no matter when you buy. They have zone deals where you can pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big savings. They have exclusive flash deals as well. There's sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, basically any live event. And Game Time picks shows you only the best value on tickets. You gotta check out Game Time. Hey, download the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Tigers win 24-17, and boy, there were a lot of superlatives in this football game. I think I want to start with Josh Williams. Josh Williams is a guy who at times this year has struggled. He's known for his pass blocking, and that hasn't been great, as we've detailed throughout the course of the year. But this was a day where he made the most of his opportunities. 14 rushing attempts, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. He added 4 receptions for 61 yards, caught all 4 of his targets. So Josh Williams went over 150 yards of scrimmage yards in this game, which was awesome to see. I loved seeing Garrett Nussmeier bounce back as well. Not just the fact that he put up big stats. And Nuss was 28 of 37. He completed 76% of his passes for 332 and a score. And should have had a couple other scores, as a matter of fact. Kyron Lacey dropped a touchdown. The Aaron Anderson ball, it was beautiful. Dropped it in the bucket in the back left corner of the end zone that Anderson just bobbled as he went to the ground. Nussmeier was incredible. And a lot of people, I know, have criticized Garrett, and the decision-making had to improve. It did on Saturday against Vanderbilt, and it's no surprise that LSU was able to win this game when they played clean football. They didn't turn it over. LSU kept the penalties down in this game as well, just 3 penalties for 25 yards. So you had a night where LSU protected the football. They avoided the costly mistakes, the costly penalties, and they converted in the red zone for the most part, other than obviously the goal-to-go situation where they came up short on that 4th down play. But all things considered, I thought this was a great day. And C.J. Daniels consistently came up with big plays. 4 catches for 56 yards, caught all 4 of his targets. He's really a security blanket for Garrett Nussmeier. And then on top of that, Josh Williams, I mentioned the rushing total, but, on the first scoring drive for LSU, Williams had 2 receptions that converted 3rd downs. He just continues to be a very consistent player for LSU. And I'd also be remiss if we didn't mention Paul Mabenga. Now, we'll see what all the stats are and all the grades are after the game, but Paul Mabenga gave up 3 sacks and 9 pressures against Florida. Tough spot to go in on the road in the SEC against a good defensive front. But that is, by all accounts, a horrendous day. 3 sacks, 9 pressures for an offensive lineman. Well, Paul Mabenga fared very well in this game, and the entire LSU offensive line fared very well in this game. LSU ran 32 times for 139, averaged almost 4.5 yards a carry, and Garrett Nussmeier was only sacked 1 time. And it was honestly not even really a sack. It was a play where he was backpedaling, and he didn't get touched, and he went down. So you avoided all of the negative plays in this game. Vanderbilt on the day had just the 1 sack, only 2 TFLs. Nussmeier they did not record a quarterback hurry. Vanderbilt did not record a quarterback hurry in this football game. That offensive line was challenged after last week, and they responded to it. So if you wanted to know what it would be like for LSU, the buy-in with your goals off the table, well, you got that answer on Saturday. The other thing I'll tell you as well, and if I just kind of look and empty the notebook from the game, you didn't have Garrett Dellinger in this game, and Mabenga started, as we said. We mentioned Whit Weeks, and you came up as well with a big 4th down stop. So there were some key moments in this game for LSU. It wasn't perfect, but it was nice to win. And I know, somebody asked me, I was doing Eagle 98.1 game day before the game, and Charles Handergriff asked me, if this game mattered. And I understand the context of how and why he asked the question. And I in the grand scheme, it's hard to say that it did, because you're not playing for any significant goals. And I don't know that recruits are going to marry themselves to the result of one game. That's just not really how that works. But all the things we've talked about with Brian Kelly, culture and buy-in and all that stuff, this was a test of that. How you played in this game, coming off a disappointing loss where now all of your goals are gone. And you went out in this ball game, and offensively, you put up 471 yards of offense. You had great balance. You threw for 332. You ran for 139, 37 pass attempts, 32 rush attempts. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different players catch a pass in this ball game. You were versatile offensively. You were efficient offensively. I thought this was a really well played game. Damian Ramos came up with a big field goal for you when you had to have it as well. So I think this was a game where it didn't matter in terms of championships or anything in those terms, but it mattered in the sense that you had to go put forth a big effort, or we'd all be sitting here saying they quit. They quit on Brian Kelly. And after watching the game on Saturday night, it's very clear they didn't. Now, the other thing that is very significant about Saturday is it was a chaotic day. Ole Miss lost to Florida. Texas A&M lost to Auburn. Alabama lost to Oklahoma. What do those all have in common? Those were all three teams that were vying for a playoff berth. All now with their third loss are effectively eliminated from playoff conversation, and all three of their losses came on the road. It is hard to win on the road in the SEC. And LSU this year lost, obviously a neutral site game in Vegas, but you lost at Texas A&M and you lost at Florida. Hard to win on the road in the league, and you saw that today. Now, I know there's also part of every fan base that cheers for the league. Be very clear. I have no desire whatsoever to see Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, or any other SEC team win a national championship. All that does is give your chief rivals, teams you play every year, play against, recruit against, all that does is give them more ammo, another feather in their cap. So no, I do not want to see the SEC littered all over the college football playoff. I want deserving teams to be there, and I want the best team to win it, which I hope will happen this year. But I will never cheer for an SEC team to be there. There is nobody more excited about Alabama losing than me. With all my Bama's burning stuff I've been doing for 10 months now, yeah, watching them lose their third game in the regular season is an amazing thing. So it may sound petty. I don't care if it does. The bottom line is Nick Saban set an impossible standard, and I want everybody to regress to the mean. And every now and again, LSU is going to pop a big year, and it'll happen. It could be next year. But if it is next year, it's going to be because you finished off this recruiting class great, and you went in the portal and you were aggressive spenders to get impact guys. And if you do that, then you can absolutely get this thing pointed back in the right direction. But Saturday was a really good start. Snapping your losing streak, tasting success, beating a good football team, coming from behind to beat a good football team. There's a lot there on the docket to like about not just that LSU one, but how they beat Vanderbilt Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. And now the challenge ratchets up because next week Oklahoma comes in and they are going to be off a field storm, perennial field storm fade, but they'll be coming off a field storm where they beat Alabama, ruining the Tide's Crimson Tide hopes. But that's a 5-5 football team that got to bowl eligibility on Saturday night with their win over Alabama, and they're going to want more coming into Tiger Stadium. So we'll be here previewing all of it throughout this week for LSU and Oklahoma. But the Tigers, in the meantime, win to get to 7-4. The 3-game losing streak is over. Can they start a new winning streak? Find out on Saturday in Tiger Stadium when LSU takes on Oklahoma. Hey, do me a favor, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.